Hello everyone, and welcome to the Odinic School of Mysteries. My name is Bear, and this is number 6? Number 6. This is number 6, I think. Today we'll be talking about the symbology and philosophy of gender as it was known and understood to the ancient people. I recognize that we live in 2019. And I recognize that there are people out there who have very strong feelings about this particular word and its associations. This is ancient philosophy. These symbols are older than you are. It's older than all of us. It's older than our nation, and it's older than the Catholic Church. It's older than time. If you want to bring your modern issues into this, you're just gonna completely miss the point. So, the mystery schools are probably not for you if you're that kind of person. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. For the rest of you, this information, like I said, is ancient. And it's fairly complicated. And this is why you go to a mystery school. This is why there's a whole school dedicated to this, because there's a lot to it. And as much as I would like, I'm going to be unable to get through all of it today. You're not going to be able to understand all of it today. If you don't understand it, don't feel bad. You're not stupid. That's important to understand. You're not stupid. This is complicated. And there's a lot of facets to it. And we're starting to get into the stuff that is literally the building blocks of creation. So, I need to make that very clear right off the bat. So, I got my pad here. I'm going to do my best to go slow, to make my point very clear as we go through this. Okay. My hope is that you stick with me. I'm going to take as long as I need to, about an hour, hopefully, before my wife gets home. And we'll do my best to get through it. And hopefully you come out knowing a little bit more on the other side. If you're someone who, I'm really good friends with Jacob Israel. Some of you have probably come over from his channel. He did it. He was very gracious to give me a shout out. A lot of people who frequent his channel are the kind of people who are really interested in the kind of symbols and stuff that appear in pop culture, the Illuminati symbolism and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of this philosophy we're going through today has to do with a lot of that kind of thing. This is one of those things that you need to understand first, and then you're going to very adequately begin to understand parts of what you're seeing out there floating around the pop culture scene. I will say off the bat, if you are interested in that kind of thing, their philosophy and the philosophy of the Odinic School of Mysteries, the School of Mysteries that I have come through, are not the same. They are Saturnian. They are part of the cult of Saturn, or the cult of the Dark Sun, which is kind of an umbrella term. We're not. We're not a cult. We don't deal with any of that kind of stuff. We are interested in bringing people out of darkness. They do completely the opposite thing. But the knowledge is still the same, right? You could use a butcher's knife to cut up a lovely meal for your friends and make a beautiful stew and salad and to help people grow, or you could use a butcher knife to murder your family. The underlying wisdom, the underlying philosophy is the same. It's how people use it that makes things good or bad, in my opinion. Not everyone will share that opinion, obviously. So, moving on. The ancients, as I kind of talked about in my last video, use symbolism the same way a modern scientist would use scientific terminology. So, written in a symbol, such as masculine and feminine, are a whole set of philosophical ideas and scientific perspectives. And it's all nicely bound into one symbol. So each symbol, every symbol in the universe, or at least every symbol in our plane of existence, is triform in nature. And what do I mean by triform in nature? I mean that every symbol, whether you're talking about the all-seeing eye, you're talking about Gungnir, the spear of Odin, Gungnir, I always put different two G's in there for some reason. Gungnir, the spear of Odin, and you're talking about Odin's ravens, or you're talking about Jesus' cross, or you're talking about any of those symbols, they're always triform in nature. They represent a physical place in the human body you could point to. Right? There's always a place in the physical world you could point to and say, that is what that represents. That is the physical place. That is the physical location of that symbol that symbol represents. It also represents a mental phenomenon. Excuse me. Something that happens in the mind. A mental process. And it also represents a spiritual component. Something that affects the spirit. And so, when we talk about the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, it operates on all three planes of existence. And it represents more planes of existence, but that is way beyond the capabilities of going through in this video. So, the sacred masculine in the Odinic school of mysteries, in the mysteries of Odin, in this particular context, multiple things are true at once. Symbols slightly change depending on how they're being used. So, the god Odin, in this particular sense, sorry, I'm clicking my pencil, my pen, represents wisdom. He's a wisdom god. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to draw us Yggdrasil, the world tree. This is the rune for Yggdrasil. This is the way it is drawn to the ancients. This is an actual rune here. You have the roots down here at the bottom, and you have the leaves up here on the top. Odin represents a positive polarity. Okay, he represents the positive polarity, and he represents wisdom. Okay, he represents wisdom. He's a wisdom god. Now, the sacred masculine, he represents the sacred masculine. I'll draw the symbol for man up here. There you go. I'll draw the symbol for man. The sacred masculine represents in the physical body the left brain and the right side of the body. A positive polarity, this is what we're talking about right here, sacred masculine, is energy pushed outward. Is energy being pushed out of itself. You have to think of sex. What does a man do during sex? He ejaculates. And energy is pushed out. So this is the world tree. Energy is pushed out of the sacred masculine, comes down, and is received into the sacred feminine, which is the negative polarity. And this is the goddess Frigg. Oops. There. See that? It's going to get a little complicated. You're not stupid. This is just complicated, okay? Take all the time you need. So Odin represents the left brain, the right side of the body. Think of a fighter. A positive polarity, masculine energy is energy pushed out of itself. So think of like a warrior with his sword and shield. A positive polarity, the right side of the body, left side of the brain. The warrior with his sword, he attacks with his sword on his right hand. Right hand is energy out. The feminine is the shield arm. Right side of the brain, left side of the body. Feminine, negative polarity, right side of the brain, left side of the body. Because think of the shield. What happens with the shield? The shield arm receives information. It receives blows. The woman, again, think of sex. What does the woman do during sex? She receives the semen. She receives the energy back into herself. Which is why she's called the goddess. Which is why the goddess always gives birth. Giving energy outward, receiving energy inward. So, back to the sacred masculine. When it comes to mental phenomenon, so we talked about the physical phenomenon, now we're talking about the mental phenomenon. The mental phenomenon, he represents, his primary attribute is wisdom and logic. Odin, in this sense, he represents wisdom and represents logic. But he also has a set of secondary attributes. And those attributes are things that are quantifiable on like a piece of paper. Like mathematically quantifiable. Things like linear time, engineering, science, mathematics. He represents all those kind of things that are quantifiable, which is why he's called wisdom. Wisdom gods are male. Truth is always called a goddess. There's never truth gods. There's always truth goddesses, because wisdom is quantifiable. Wisdom is quantifiable. Wisdom is specific. Truth is holistic. It is hard to pin down with your finger what the truth actually is. It's because it's too big to really quantify. There's just too much to it for our brains to be able to wrap around. So the wisdom god always represents quantifiable things on a piece of paper. The sacred feminine, the goddess Frigg, in this particular instance, represents things that are not quantifiable on a piece of paper. Her primary attributes are truth, like I just said, and creation. She creates. She's the one who gives birth. Do you understand? She represents truth, because truth is holistic and it's hard to pin your finger down. You can't, say, because truth is too big. So she represents truth, and she represents creation, because the mother goddess gives birth. Her secondary characteristics are things that are not quantifiable on a piece of paper. Things such as love, art, emotion, sensation, infinite time, those kind of things. Again, I'm going to say this over and over again. You're not stupid. This is complicated. There's a lot of facets here. So, the mother goddess gives birth. So, you ever wonder why, when it comes to sun gods, why is it always a male child? You ever wonder that? Why is it always a male child that is born? Jesus is male, Tammuz is male, Baldur is male, Jesus is male, Mithra is male. You ever wonder that? Why is it? It's because giving, positive polarity, you give a gift, that's positive. You receive a gift, that's negative. Think of this. Energy outward is masculine. Energy received is feminine. Remember, this is the world tree we're talking about right here. What does it say about the world tree? You have the Norns, female, who write runes on the world tree. They go up the tree and fertilize all life until they come up to the branches of the world tree, and then finally they drop in the form of dew back into the waters of Erd, back to the Norns. Why is it, again, it's always a male child that's born? Because, we'll say like this right here is Midgard. This is Midgard right here is the magnet, if we're talking about magnetics. Right, this is the magnet. So he's the sun, he's Baldur. Why is it always a male child? Because the act of giving birth. Giving birth is what? It's energy pushed outward. Giving birth is energy pushed outward. Because it's energy that is pushed outward, it makes the child a male. It makes it a male child. Following me? This is why, if you're Christian, remember what Jesus says. Nobody, we live down, okay, we're down here in the underworld. Here's Jesus. Here's God the Father up here. God the Father's up here. We're talking to the Christians now. Down here is where we are in the underworld. This is Jesus. What does Jesus say? Nobody comes to the Father except through me. A little arrow. No one comes to the Father except through me. You seeing what we're looking at here? It's pretty interesting. The ancients weren't stupid people, folks. The ancients were not stupid people. All this philosophy, though complicated, is actually trying to teach us something. And I know it takes us a while to get there, but we're getting there. What else did Jesus say? He says, I'm going now and I'm going to return to my Father. Jesus, he leaves to return to his Father in heaven. Things down here at the bottom, underworld. Things up here, the top, the heavens. So now we could kind of start getting into... Should I get into astrotheology today? I got time. So let's recap. Sacred masculine. No, I'm going to stick with this. We're not going to get into astrotheology today. Sacred masculine represents wisdom and logic. His subcategories are things that his subcategories are things that are quantifiable on a piece of paper. Things that are like math, science, engineering, linear time, that kind of thing. He represents left side of the brain, right side of the body, like a warrior. You have a warrior, right, with his sword and shield, right? The right side is his sword arm, positive polarity, energy pushed outward. Left side of the brain, left side of the body, right side of the brain is energy received. So a really good example of this is if you observe ancient Egyptian art, for example. You'll notice, if you look at ancient Egyptian art, they're painted with either 2 right arms or 2 left arms. You can tell by the position of the thumbs. If it's 2 right arms, the object that they're holding is being given to somebody else. If it's 2 left arms, the object they're holding is being received. See, this is ancient stuff. This isn't just random. This isn't just random nonsense. This is stuff you could go and you could actually go find some Egyptian art and just look, and you'll see on their paintings and stuff. So, what does this have anything to do with anything? You recognize the symbol? We've talked about slightly before. This is the progenitor of the Gungnir spear. The Gungnir spear. Odin's spear. The right side of the spear. Now these are... Oh, okay, I gotta say it this way. Symbols are always written as though you were holding them, or if you were standing in the temple. So, let me show you. This looks backwards, but it is written as though you were holding it. So picture yourself holding the spear out in front of you. This side over here will be on the right side. This spear over here, this side over here will be on the left side. Right side, left side. See? Male side, female side. Gungnir. This is also called the pillar of stability in some occult circles. And this is the pyramid, or the spear, is always a symbol for the mind. This is always a symbol for the mind. So the way this works in a practical sense is that the masculine and the feminine they mate with each other. The masculine side has no empathy. He has no empathy. The female side has no logic. The feminine side is all emotion. The masculine side is all just cold, hard numbers. So let's say you want to make a cup of coffee. Can't imagine why you'd want to do a silly thing like that. The feminine side of your brain, the creative side, goes, oh, wouldn't a cup of coffee be great? Oh, it would be so good to sit a cup of coffee and breathe the morning air and go get the paper and, it'd be wonderful. And the masculine side says, oh, we're making coffee. Okay, I need this much grain. I need this much coffee. I need this temperature. I need it for this long. I need this cup. And the feminine side is saying, oh, wouldn't it be great to drink out of the really nice flower cup with the flowers and the things on it. And the masculine side, he says, okay, we're doing that one, so we're going to need we have to open this particular cupboard. We're going to have to use this amount of force to get the cup. And they talk. They mate back and forth. The masculine and the feminine, Odin and Frigg, are having sex. And out of the process of those two things working together, they have a male child. The male child, Balder, is the thing that is always created out of that union. Balder, in this sense, and in this particular plane, Balder is the cup of coffee that is made. What essentially happens, you have taken something that is in the mental plane, the plane of causes. Those two parts of your brain have actually made something appear into the physical reality. They've given birth into something, into the physical reality. So up here, and he's always called the light, because he's the thing we talked about last time. Remember, we talked about in the last video, which is why it is highly recommended you watch these things in order. We talked about the transitory nature of fire and light. How light is the thing, fire is the thing that makes light, and fire is the thing that changes one plane, one thing, into something completely different. Which is why the sun is always called the light of the world, because he represents Balder, or Jesus, or Tammuz, or whatever. He represents the transitional nature of creation. So in this case, Balder represents the transitory nature of the thoughts you have created. You wanted coffee. You put your concentration in your coffee. You put all your thoughts and energies and everything, your time, your grains and sacrifices and all the things you had to do. He represents all of that transferred into a piece of coffee, a cup of coffee. And that happened because transitory nature is light. Transitory nature is light. You got coffee. Clear as mud? So up here, and again, because this is energy that's pushed outward, that makes it a male child. So you have to pay very close attention when you're reading mythology. Pay very close attention to the way things are gendered. Pay very close attention to the way the gods and the goddesses are gendered, because it'll offer a very important clue as to their purpose, as to what phenomenon they're representing. Do you understand? God the Father, if you're Christian, for example, God the Father, why is he male? Why is God the Father male? Because creation, right? Energy outward, energy inward. The sacred masculine, if you put this as like your brain, this is actually me, this. Picture this as your brain, right? God the Father, energy outward. God the Mother. I know most Christians don't recognize the Holy Ghost as feminine, but that is essentially who the Holy Ghost would be the Mother Goddess. And between the two of them, they create a son. And I know I'm going to hear about it. I know not a lot of people are going to like to hear that, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's where the ancient symbolism works. So this is why when people say, so, Bear, who is better, the conservatives or the liberals? That's why I roll my eyes. Why I think that's a stupid question. Well, I mean, it's not a stupid question. It's a stupid question if you already understand this. Because what is essentially what we're dealing with here? We're dealing with these two polarities. We talked about truth. Remember truth? We talked about polarities. It's all connected, people. All connected. Okay? So, conservatism is this. Sacred masculine. Liberalism is this. Sacred feminine. Conservatism is what do we hear all about with conservatives? It's all about logic and reason and thinking things through. We need to make a logical decision about things. There's not a lot of empathy. Not a lot of empathy from this side. This side is just the opposite. It's all about the feelings and how I feel, and this feels really good. We need to be accepting energy inward. Mothers, they pull babies into their breasts. They want to give you hugs. They want to accept energy into themselves. They want to bring you into the home. That is all feminine energy. Liberalism is the feminine side of the argument. The truth is this right here. The truth is this right here. But it produces these two polarities, which is why I say two things can be true at once. Both of these are right and both of these are wrong at the same time. Because you have to look at the whole thing. Conservatism and liberalism are the products of a single cause. And if you want to know the truth, you want to know the real position they have, you need to look at what makes both of these happen at the same time. So, it is said, in order to have... Where am I at? Actually, I'm only at 34 minutes. Not bad. If you want to have good children, you want to produce light into the world, you have to have an equal balance of your masculine and feminine properties. And I am not saying that if you're a man, you need to be effeminate. And I'm not saying that if you're a woman, you need to be more manly. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to recognize if you're a woman, you lean more towards that feminine side of things, you have to recognize the importance of logic and reason in your life. If you are more towards the logic and reason side of things, if you're a masculine person, you have to understand that you have to be educated in the ways of emotion. You have to recognize the importance of emotion and what they do. You have to have both things. The sacred masculine can never create anything new. Can never create anything new. It only knows what it already knows. It cannot create anything. It's just numbers. It's a calculator. The calculator cannot figure out anything else that is outside of its programming. Right? It can't think. It can only reason. The sacred feminine has no logic in it. Has no numbers. So it just creates it just vomits creation, whatever. Has no guidance. It will just happily whatever feels good just goes with it, right? But it has no guidance, has no guiding principle. It's just vomits creation all over everything. So that's why the sacred masculine can't create anything new, and the sacred feminine has no guiding principle, which is why you need to have both. In order to have a good cup of coffee, you need to have the sacred masculine saying, no, we need this amount of coffee for this amount of water for this amount of time in order to have a good cup of coffee. The sacred feminine is the part that's going, well, it'd be great if it's a little bit stronger today because, we don't want weaker coffee because it's cold outside, so stronger coffee would be better. And it's that the sacred masculine who would say, okay, we need stronger coffee, so therefore it's always the sacred feminine that initiates the creative part, the creative process. She's the one, because she's the creative person, she's the one who comes up with all the good ideas. The sacred masculine is figures out how those ideas are put in place. Do you understand? Again, I know it's really complicated, but very slowly over the course of these, we're building the world tree of Yggdrasil. We're building the world tree. We're building this very slowly. And because Yggdrasil is such a big idea, because there's so much to it, it can't be done in one video. It has to be just slowly revealed to you as we go along. There's an old mystery school saying that says, always see the end from the beginning. From the very first, you're told all the information and symbolism. You're told all the information and symbolism. I think it was the first or second video we talked about the story of Odin hanging from the world tree and yada yada yada. And I meant what I said when I said buried in that story is the entire profundity of the universe. The entire profundity of the universe is built into that symbol, into the two sentences, those three sentences. So suddenly, we go from 2 or 3 sentences to this monstrosity. So, 39 minutes. I'll just go over this real quick, just because I think it's fun. I'm basically done, but if you, for those of you who like stuff, okay. Circle, line through it. Okay. Sun is up here. Positive polarity. Okay. Feminine is down here. This is the sun. This is nighttime. Upper world, underworld. Okay. Over here is the east. Over here is the west. So, my friends, why is the mother goddess always called the moon and stars? Do you know why? What, for you Christians, why was Jesus born first thing in the morning? Do you know why? This is fun. Because the mother goddess gives birth to the sun. Can you go this backward? Gives birth to the Son of God first thing in the morning. See? East. Then God, then Balder, he lives his life. And then suddenly, in the prime of his life, or Jesus, for example, in the prime of his life, he is murdered. He suffers. He goes into the underworld, where he is born again in the morning. Balder is born by Frigg. He's murdered. He goes back into the underworld. And then at the end of the time of darkness, after Ragnarok, he is born again back into the heavens. In heathen mythology, in our religion, who rules the underworld? Hell does. Hell rules the underworld. It's a female goddess of duality. This is what duality means, by the way. I know I said I'm almost done, but I'm having fun. If you're still with me, thank you. Upright pyramid is called the pyramid of stability. It means that the masculine and the feminine principles are in balance, and it's unified by the shining tip of the spear up here by the sun. Right? The transitional principle. But what happens when you flip it upside down? It's called the pyramid of instability. Well, in this case, it's when Gungnir, the spear of Odin, is placed upside down. Why is this important? Orientation is infinitely important in symbology. The way something is oriented. Why is this important? Do you know? It's because the masculine and the feminine parts are now raised to heaven, and unity is buried under the ground. So you can pretend this is the earth, but here, and now it's in the underworld. It's blind. The light's been clicked off. And so now, the master player, whoever he is, whoever the jerk-off is, he could push this, he could push you in any direction he wants, and you'll topple. Most people live up here. Most people operate in either this side of things or in this side of things. They're not holistic. They don't operate in both. So, any jackoff who understands this stuff can put you in a state of disorder into the state of hell, Helheim, which is this, which is also where we get the Baphomet from. The horns of the goat. This is the horns of the goat. It means duality is raised to heaven. The carnal-minded person is raised to heaven. The disunification, the person who's a disunified is raised to heaven, and so therefore that is glorified and worshipped as God. Ego. This represents the ego. This represents balance. Ego, balance. This is you said you have one eye. One eye. Odin has one eye. Seeing what I'm saying? This is where this comes from. This is where that idea comes from. This one and this one. It means that you're operating under the principle of unity. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay. I am done. I'm done! Which is good, because my wife's going to be home soon. Alright, my friends. We will, of course, go over this a lot more. At some point, we're going to start going into astrotheology, where this starts coming into a lot more of it. This is a good warm-up course. This is a good warm-up course. And a lot more came out of this today than I actually thought. I didn't realize that I would be able to get into Gungnir like I did. Or even this stuff. I didn't even realize that I would get to tell you what the one eye meant. Which, I mean, come on. I mean, I didn't realize I would get to do that. But this is the principle. This is the principle. So you got the principle, right? So you cut the top off the pyramid. Is it being lowered or is it being raised? Well, we'll find out. Not sure. Dog startled herself. All right. Talk to you later, you guys. I love you. And hope I didn't piss you off too bad. All right. Bye. Doug startled herself. What?